So, what was it about immigration, immigration law, or, what made you choose it as your focus?
It was a lot to do with my background, the way I grew up, cultural understanding, my linguistic abilities. I speak a bunch of languages, and Spanish are my primary languages. It was that, the cultural understanding. And then when I was in law school after the first semester, I was given by an immigration attorney. He's one of the top attorneys in the country for immigration law.
Laws in the way immigration law firms, especially the legal tech side, the way things were managed, and so you came up with a solution.
In taxes, you've had a digital bridge for 20 some odd years, you can submit it by pushing a button. Immigration, you still have to print out and mail in physical documents.
Even the U.S. government might look into your way of working out. U.S. government is a little, distant as of now.
First, direct to consumer, right? So a person that has a clean, what we call a clean case, they don't need a law firm. They can just walk through the steps and do it on their own. People who are younger, normally a little tech savvy. Go ahead. You have everything that you need in immigration is surrounding you. And then whenever you bring anything into your universe as an individual, as a customer, as a beneficiary, as a user, that object that moves into your universe should interact with everything that's already in your universe.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of LexTalk. On today's podcast, we have Michael Hendricks joining us from Allcanza. Now, before I give you, or I ask him about his background, let me just give you a small intro about him, as to who Mr. Hendricks is. Now, Michael, he grew up in Mexico as an immigrant, and that experience led him to found Hendricks Law in 2015 to serve disenfranchised immigrant communities. After seeing thousands of people blocked by cost and complexity, he built Allcanza to finally provide an affordable, guided, and automated platform for achieving the American dream for immigrants and major efficiencies for businesses. Hello, Michael. Welcome to the show, and thank you for taking our time to joining us.
No, thank you for having me. I'm super happy to be here and be able to discuss AI and technology and Allcanza and all the like.
Lovely. That's lovely, Michael. So how's the day been going so far?
So today's great. I live in New Mexico and we have some beautiful fall weather happening. So it's a great day to be alive and to be able to help people through various processes in the legal system.
Lovely. Wonderful. You're approaching the weekend. Any plans for the weekend?
Nope, I work all weekend normally. So I'm also a pastor. So I have a worship.
Okay.
I'm the worship pastor of my church. And so I have Sunday all day pretty much doing that as well. So.
Wow, that's lovely, Michael. So all in all, community service through immigration, being a pastor, occupied on Sundays as well. Wow.
Yep, lovely. We try to do our part.
That's really great, Michael. That's really wonderful. So you grew up in Mexico. So how is that, that you ended up in the US and chose to attend the law school?
Yeah, so I was taken to Mexico. Actually, my dad's a pastor. So I was taken to Mexico. My parents are missionaries when I was very young. I was born in the US, taken to Mexico, and I didn't actually come back to the US till I was 17. I had been in and out of the US because Mexico's so close, but I lived in Mexico until I was 17. And came back and started to work. I'm an entrepreneur by nature. So I built my first business when I was 18 and started working, and then ended up deciding to go to college. So I went to college, went and got my undergrad, my doctorate, and then my master's in business administration. And the reason that I chose to go into law school, I was looking at various different disciplines. One being linguistics, because I was thinking about just getting a PhD in linguistics. But I chose to do law school for various reasons. Like one, financial, right? There's security. If you're a lawyer, you always can find a job. At least that's what we thought back then. And also because it would allow me to help. At this time, I hadn't thought about immigration, right? That wasn't my thought pattern. It was just, okay, I'll go become a lawyer. And I've always been good at arguing. So, okay, I'll go become a lawyer, find out arguing is not actually that much of what a lawyer does. They do more reading and writing than arguing, but decided that law school was the way to go, be able to take care of my family and provide a good life for them as an attorney. And I will say, for anybody listening who is not a lawyer already, is thinking about going to law school, I would really look into that decision before you make it. So there's a lot of lawyers out there that are like, no, I wish I would have never gone to law school. So just make sure it doesn't mean that you're going to have a cherry life just because you become a lawyer, even though that's what I thought when I was much younger.
All right. Okay, well, that's a nice piece of advice for, I would say all upcoming people who are thinking of, pursuing this, law as a career. Maybe they should talk to you before they choose the career.
Yeah, maybe they should talk at the conference in November.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. So, what was it about immigration, immigration law, or, what made you choose it as your focus? Can you say that, this was not your focus area, but ultimately, it became your focus area? So,
Yeah,
what exactly happened?
So it was a lot to do with my background, the way I grew up, cultural understanding, my linguistic abilities. I speak a bunch of languages. English and Spanish are my primary languages, but it was the cultural understanding. And then when I was in law school after the first semester, I was given a job by an immigration attorney. He's one of the top attorneys in the country for immigration law. And it was through that I started to see, first of all, I like puzzles. I like to be challenged when I'm working. If things are not challenging, then I get bored and then I move on to something else. And so with immigration, I was able to start learning and realized how big it was, right? In fact, the federal judges will tell you that it is the second most complicated area of law in the US, only behind taxes. So it's a very complicated area of law. There's a ton of different pieces that tie in. And then with my cultural understanding, my linguistic ability, where I live in New Mexico, we have a lot of Spanish speakers. It's my other primary language. So it just fit, right? I was able to help people. I grew up as an immigrant. I knew the immigrant story. And so I wanted people to be able to obtain the benefit of being in the US with papers, right? Because the problem is there's a lot of people here who are undocumented. Well, that really harms their growth, their future economic ability, their family, because things happen. People end up getting deported and then it separates full families. And so by going in immigration, I was able to use my cultural understanding, my linguistic ability, and now my legal knowledge to be able to help people achieve the American dream, so to speak.
Wow, lovely. And as we were discussing in the background, you told me that you noticed some flaws in the way immigration law firms, especially the legal tech side, the way things were managed. And so you came up with a solution. So if you could elaborate more on that, help the audience also know about it.
Yeah. So it didn't take me very long to realize there was a problem, right? This was way before AI was a thing that was optional for people, right? And that's only been in the last couple of years. This was before there were even any good tech solutions. So we used a technology that was very outdated. It was what's called nested, which means that like you're in a primary account, then you have to go into a family member and it takes you out of that account into another one, and then it nests you down and there's no way to get back. The data didn't persist. The way things were done seemed very manual instead of automated, even with technology. And very quickly, within a year or so, I was like, man, this can be done better. Now, it took me several years to realize that dream. It was 2016 that I thought, you know what, we can do this better. This can be done better. And I can provide access to people who don't even need an attorney, right? Because there's a lot of people that have clean cases or they're very intelligent and they're like, look, I can do this on my own, but I just don't know where to start. I don't even know who can help me know where to start. And so they end up going to attorneys and spending tens of thousands of dollars when they don't really need an attorney. So it was the combined of these two thoughts. And then the third thought was the US government is so bad at what they do. They are horrible. Like in taxes, you've had a digital bridge to submit your taxes for 20 some odd years. You can submit it by pushing a button. Immigration, you still have to print out and mail in physical documents. It's ridiculous, right? So I was like, if I can build a system that works well enough, it will help increase efficiencies in law firms, decrease cost overall for the consumers. Consumers could have direct access to immigration without having to pay an attorney tens of thousands of dollars. And potentially in the future, I could help the US government make this whole system better, faster approvals, faster notifications, a quicker turnaround for people, and maybe able to reduce wait times altogether. So those were the thoughts that came into it. And so the solution that I came up with, and it took me a long time, I'm on my fifth iteration. Every one of them have worked, but we've just bettered it and bettered it and bettered it over time. We're on our 5th iteration now. And now that's been 4.5 years, we have a system that has a fully integrated AI, answers all your questions for you, walks you through every path, translates your documents. It does everything, builds your case. Soon we'll have it to where you just upload documents. It extracts all the data, which it does now, but then it'll put it into the fields for you. So it'll actually put the data into your workflows as you're uploading the documents. So that it decreases error rates, it improves efficiencies, it makes it faster. So the solution that we came up with that we have now, it's very different from the one that we had when we first started doing this. It was very rudimentary. But now the solution is super robust.
All right. Well, thank you for letting the audience and letting me know about it. Looking forward to things that, maybe sometime in the future, in the near future, even the US government might look into your way of working out and your software. But, US government is a little, distant as of now. If I would ask you right now, who all can actually benefit using your software or kind of service that you offer? Is it just the law firm, or who else can be benefited out of using solutions brought to people by Allcanza?
Well, there's a lot. There's actually a lot of people. So first, direct to consumer, right? So a person that has a clean, what we call a clean case, they don't need a law firm. They can just walk through the steps and do it on their own. People who are younger, normally a little tech savvy. Go ahead.
No, I wanted to ask you one thing. You talk about clean case.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can help the audience also understand, or if you could elaborate a bit about what exactly does a clean case means?
Sure.
As an immigrant, how would I know if my case is clean or not? Whether do I need an attorney or not?
So that's one of the things that we provide is an eligibility quiz. So eligibility quiz that's fully automated that tells you whether or not you're able to move forward. So the way I did it, I actually built it from my brain. So it's rather conservative. If it says you're eligible, it's because you have a clean case. And a clean case just means that you don't have any immigration issues like bad conduct with immigration, negative contacts rather. You don't have any criminal history in this country or any other country. You don't have anything in your background that would cause a red flag for the US government. That's what a clean case is, right? So a lot of people do. I will say people from India generally come to the US on either a student visa or a temporary work visa, H-1B or something of the like, right? So most of them, as long as you don't drive drunk or beat your wife, right, you're going to be fine to move forward. The problem is because that happens a lot. You're laughing, and I know it's funny, but a lot of people that I meet, they've come to another country that's not their country, and yet they break the laws. And it's like, why would you do that? But it happens, right? It happens to people all the time. So the system, what it's doing is weeding out those who are like, no, you don't really need an attorney. You're good to move forward. You just need to follow the guidance and the steps. And you get a human guide, right? So there's still a person helping walk you through it. The AI is walking you through it, and you get attorney review to make sure that it's complete, right? So it's still built in with a bunch of fail safes. But that, if it tells you that you're eligible to move forward without any legal consultation, that's because you have a clean case. A person without a clean case, what it's going to do is it's going to send them to an endpoint that says you need a legal consultation. Let me give you an example. A person's been here. They're ready to move forward. They're a resident. They're ready to move forward with citizenship. They want to do the naturalization process. They answer the questions with their person that's doing this, the consultation with them. They answer the questions, and it says, hey, you need a legal consultation. And the reason is because they put, at some point in my life, I have had a criminal charge. I was either arrested or charged with a crime. That's automatically going to stop them and say, nope, you need to talk to a lawyer. Why? Because in order to do naturalization, we have to verify when the charge was, what happened, when did it end, and how did it end? How long ago did you not only end, but how long ago did you complete all of the processes? For instance, a DUI, I got driving drunk, right? I got 1 year probation. When did you finish that probation? And do you have a successful completion of it? Then we can say, okay, it's been 5 years since that point, you're able to move forward. But that way it filters out people who could have any red flags in the system that say, nope, you may need a lawyer in order to help you. So that's direct to consumer. That's a clean case. The next group of people that we help with is law firms, right? So the legal technology. A lot of law firms are multidisciplinary, which means that they focus on various areas of law. So you have some that are niched, right? Which is like, I just do immigration, or I just do criminal defense, or I just do personal injury, or whatever it is, right? M&A. But you have a lot of them that are big, like they're the robust firms that have multiple areas. They're multidiscipline. They are not going to know immigration like I know immigration, right? So we provide legal tech to people who are in a niche platform where they know immigration and they just need help getting the forms and the case compiled. It increases efficiencies by like 60% in a law firm, decreases the need for human resource, increases opportunity. But it also works well for larger law firms who have technologies that are built in, like Clio and stuff like that. But they're not really the savviest person when it comes to immigration. So our AI helps them understand. So they can ask any immigration question to our AI and he will give them a response as if it came from my brain. So they're able to get the information that they need in order to be able to move forward without having to, for instance, go to the KERS ban, which is the law book that is used a lot for immigration, has all of immigration, like the immigration Bible, right? So it's very, very, very thick. It's like 1,500 pages thick, right? And it's got broken down everything. So our system does that for you. The next group of people that it helps are HR departments. HR departments, because a lot of people, they need employees, right? We don't have enough people in the country to fill all the open jobs. We don't have enough people in certain areas to even fill half the jobs. For instance, we need a lot of IT people. We need a lot of engineers. We need a lot of nurses. We need a lot of doctors. We need a lot of dentists. So those people aren't graduating at a high enough rate in the US to saturate the market. These HR departments need to bring people in to be able to fill those jobs. What they're doing now is they have to go to one of these large law firms. And they end up paying the law firm $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, sometimes more, in order to get a single person in. And they'll wait a few years, right? Usually. What our system does is it allows it to reduce that cost for them, increase efficiencies. They get a team that works with them, and they're able to use our system in order to do it. And we not only do that, we also bring people to the table so that they can recruit them. So we go find the talent for them. We bring them to the table. We allow the HR department to come in and say, this is out of the 5 people I interviewed, this is the one that I want. And then when we take it from there and we move forward with the process in order for them to be able to move forward. The last group is mobility. So there are mobility experts that help people move around the world for jobs. And so they're able to use the system in order to put their talent in the system for them to be recruited, and then also process through the system their immigration cases.
Okay. So you said, I mean, when we were discussing it earlier, you said your AI's name is Leo, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Legal
So
efficiency operator.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So you are a techie yourself. So, how did you design your technology to function as a complete infrastructure, that solves a very different problem of individual consumers, specialized law firms, and corporate HR departments, all at once?
Yeah, so
you probably must have thought from a very wide point of view while designing it, or does it happen step by step?
So actually, I thought from a very narrow point of view. And the reason it was narrow is because I wanted you, right, AJ, to have your own immigration universe. You have everything that you need in immigration surrounding you. And then whenever you bring anything into your universe as an individual, as a customer, as a beneficiary, as a user, that object that moves into your universe should interact with everything that's already in your universe. So I actually went super narrow rather than super wide. And so we built it based on a vector database. So the vectors allow us to be able to tie objects together. So every field in the system is an object, right? And what we do is we tie it together based on relevance, function, location, right? Weight, value. And pulling those things together allowed it to be to where I have this object and it ties to 30 objects around it. And they could be used for different things. Like maybe this is you're getting your work permit and this is used, this piece of data, this field, this object is used in that, but it's also used in your adjustment or your O1A or your EB1A or your national interest waiver. So one object can be used for a multitude of things. And then your universe, AJ, is built of all these objects. So as you fill in the data in those objects, anything that moves into the universe for you automatically fills. So then it allows there to be this like robust universe that's based on you, not on a single process. Because AJ, you may have to do 5 processes. You may come in under F1 and then go to an H1B and then do an EB1A or an O1A and then an EB1A and then eventually do your naturalization. The thing about our universe is that you always keep that universe, which means that no matter what you're doing, any data you've already put in automatically fills in anything that it can in your universe. So as you bring in a new process or a new case type, it automatically relates to that case type and says, I know what I'm doing here. I'm already going to fill all this data. And then where Leo comes in is he works with you in order to be able to input information, to help you have clarity, to help you translate your documents, to help you write documents, to help you communicate with your team, if it's a legal team, or with your guide. So it's a very, like I said, it's a very robust system, but it is narrowly tailored to the user, because I want it to be about you, not about where you're going, not about who you're working through. I want it to be about AJ, and making AJ the center of his universe means that universe is going to revolve around AJ.
I get that. So don't you think it can get a little tricky or a little difficult for someone filling out all the details? Or
not at all. It's available in every language in the world. All you do is put it in your language, and you just do it in your language.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's lovely. That's actually wonderful.
So you can't, right now, you can't answer in your language. Pretty soon you'll be able to answer in your language, and then it'll automatically translate it to English, right? So right now you have to put the letters have to be in English, the Roman alphabet, right? But we use that alphabet, right? The English alphabet. Now, most places do too, right? So let's say you're from China and you're using symbols, right? Or you're Hindi and you're using Sanskrit or whatever it is, right? The Hindi language, the characters and the different looks. You would have to write that in English, right? But like people from India, the educated folks there, they speak English, right? And so like addresses and stuff like that, it's going to be in the alphabet anyway, right? So most of the information, and if your name is written, for instance, I'm Chinese, my name has 2 characters, that's my name, right? So then if you have those characters, there's another space. So you have to put as it is written in English, and then there's another space to say, now write your name or your address in your native characters. So that's required by the US government anyway. So it allows you to read it in your own language. Within a few months, you'll be able to write it in your own language. It'll automatically translate it to English as well.
Wow, that's actually brilliant. So if I would talk about, from this conference point of view, majority of the audience includes many lawyers, compliance officers, and M&A people, M&A experts. Now, we will also have people coming in from Latin, East Asia, even from African countries. From their perspective, where scalability, compliance, and cross-border data are critical. What are the biggest, failures you see in today's immigration tech, and how did you build your platform to address those specific high-level risks?
So I would say some of the biggest failures is the lack of process completion. So a lot of the technologies that exist today, they start after you qualify, and they end when you put your data in or you upload your documents. So ours goes all the way from the moment that a person wants to see if they qualify, tracking whether that person is eligible, whether they purchased, whether they're moving forward. So the whole sales cycle is built in like a CRM. Then after you've purchased, it moves on to the rest. You put your data in, you upload your documents. Most systems, that's where they end. You push a button, it fills your forms with the data you've put in, and then you pull those out and you stack them, right? You put them in order as the government requires. Our system does that for you. So you just push a button and it automatically builds your whole case in 10 seconds. So you don't have to worry about pulling it out, and then it's ready for attorney review if there's an attorney review included. And so the attorney's looking at it, provides instructions, and then you pull it out. If there's any changes need to be made, you can pull it out and then set it back in as a final file. And then ours goes even further than that, in that after you've submitted it and you get a receipt notice saying, hey, this is what you've paid, here's the receipt number, then you put that receipt number into our system and it tracks your case for you. So it's an ongoing tracking that gives you alerts about if there's changes and so on. So it's a much more robust system. I think where people have the biggest failure, in my opinion, is they become static. In other words, there's a song, we ain't never done it that way before, right? That song is talking about people who don't know how to change their actions, right? So a lot of people get stuck in the past because I always use Bob the attorney, and Bob the attorney gives me the price, and I do it with Bob the attorney, and Bob the attorney does my case as well. The problem is Bob may be charging you twice as much. He may be 2 times slower, right? He may not be as an efficient person or using the advanced technologies. He may not be allowing your person wherever let's say a person's in Africa. Well, how's he getting the data from the person in Africa? Is it through email and then somebody has to transpose that? Our system, you have direct access. So it's the attorney, the guide, the user, they all have direct access to their own dashboard. They can see exactly what's happening at any point in time, which means that global immigration is a cinch because everybody has access to what's going on. It also makes people accountable because your consumer or your client can see what's happening in the case. A lot of lawyers like to hide behind oh, well, we're working on it. What does that even mean, right? I mean, how long is it going to take you to finish it? And it's like, really what they're saying is I had 10 cases ahead of you and I put yours on the back burner until I finish those other ones, right? Maybe they're paying me more. Maybe they came in earlier. In this system, you're able to see what's going on. So it keeps the attorney's office, it keeps the system accountable to the consumer, to the client, which allows for a much greater amount of client satisfaction and customer service.
Okay, great to know about that. Now, just to give our audience a little backdrop or a little background, we have a conference coming up on 19th and 20th of November at San Francisco. So, going from that perspective, the major theme of the conference is going to be on AI. The biggest fear currently that people have, also in the law industry, apart from that, apart from law industry as well, people are scared about AI. So, you are a techie, you are an expert in that. What do you think? Will AI replace lawyers? When an immigration attorney hears full automation, they might see Leo as a threat, as a competitor. So what is your message to them? Or what would you like to, tell them?
First of all, I do believe that AI will replace a lot of lawyers. It'll replace the bad lawyers. It'll replace the ones that don't know what they're doing, right? It'll replace the ones that charge money for easy stuff, right? So what's going to happen is we're going to weed out people who aren't real lawyers, right? They're people that have the title lawyer and they practice, but they're just choosing the easy stuff, right? What it's going to force people is to up their practice. So Leo should not be your competitor. He should be your tool. He is your tool to make your job better. Let's say that you're going to drop an engine out of a car. Okay. And the only thing that you have to use is cinder blocks or blocks to drive your car up on to get it high enough to drop the engine out. How much work is that? I mean, how did you get it up on the cinder blocks? How do you keep it there? What if it falls over, right? That's the state of law right now. It's this house of cards that's just built on things that could fall very easily, could have all these problems. What I'm giving you is a lift. So now you just put the car on the metal beams and the hydraulics lift that car off the ground for you to drop the engine out. It should be a tool. This is a tool that should make your job easier, more efficient, a better practice, higher volume, not a competitor. Leo is there to help people do their job better and help them do it better for their clients, help them do it faster for their clients, and eventually, hopefully, help them be able to charge less money to their clients because the job has gotten less intense. So it'll push forward the cream of the crop, like it'll make people rise to the top and say, no, you're either going to raise your level of practice or you're probably going to die off. That's going to happen everywhere. That's not just lawyers. Robots are taking over manufacturing, right? So it's not just lawyers, but it's going to happen in the legal space as well. So you either elevate your practice or you die and find something else. Those who do elevate their practice shouldn't look at Leo as a competitor. Leo is your lift. It is your helper. It's your tool to improve your practice, to make it better, more efficient, more cost-effective for your clients, but also for you, so that you have less people, less overhead, less expenses, and more money actually coming into your pocket.
Okay. Taking that answer and my question one step further. Now, let's talk about AI, as talking about it. So today we are considering it as a gold rush. We see people running behind it like mad, a big crowd going towards it, everyone going behind it. Don't mind me saying this, but there are many legal tech platforms are built on 100% generative AI. And even you would agree with me, since you are from the same field. So, now fueled by billions, in venture capital, you have made the bold claim that this is an unsustainable model. So can you walk us through, about with your thinking on what happens when those VC subsidizes and investors start demanding their money back? So
Yeah. So
how will all
actually,
this
how will it play
well,
out?
good? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say this. Look, I am not the expert, but I have my experts, right? And so I talk to them about this all the time. So right now, what's happening ever since OpenAI, right? That was the first one. Of course, IBM and other places have had their servers with their versions of AIs for 20 years, and they're able, for very expensive cost, companies can get access to their systems, right? But as an open concept for users, individual users, for me and you, consumers in the market, this is the first version. OpenAI was the first version. Most people know it as ChatGPT, was the first version that was out to say, you as a regular Joe can use this. And by the way, companies, you can use this with a subset of data and so on and so forth. That's been about 3 years now. So in those 3 years, we've seen, like you said, billions of dollars poured in. Because why? Everybody wants AI to succeed. It makes jobs more efficient. It makes them better. So the billions of dollars have really paid for R&D. For several years, the billions were just being poured into R&D, getting servers, having power stations, having groups of people manually entering data, right? So this all was getting poured into the development of AI. Over the past year, the billions have moved less from R&D and more into saturation. So what's happening is they want you and everyone else in the world, all 8 billion of us, to be addicted to AI. Why? Because if you can get me addicted to something, the same thing drug dealers do, and I'm not saying AI is bad or a drug, right? But it's the same thing drug dealers do. They give you your first samples for free, and then they start selling to you once they have it hooked, right? Once you're hooked on it. So if we start using AI in every area of our life, which is what we're doing, everyone is using. We have it on our phone. We have it on our computers. It's in our emails. It's everywhere, right? WhatsApp. You can AI generate your messages. Once they have you hooked, then it's going to be really hard to go back. Once you've used electricity, it's hard to go back to living without electricity. So once you have AI, it's going to be hard to go back. Well, what's going to happen is now that they've gotten the R&D done and they're getting people hooked with saturation in a general format. So the regular Tom and Dick out there, they're able to use the system. Then the investors are going to say, now we need to get paid back for our investments. This wasn't a gift. This was investment. And what's going to happen? The cost per token is decreasing. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, you're wrong. The cost of token is decreasing. Yes, the usage is going up. And so what happens is when you have this escalated usage, even when the cost goes down, the total cost overall is much greater. And we're already having information and warnings about power failures, the amount of natural resource and resources that are being taken just by the farms and the servers, the things that help and make this kind of system work. They're taking so much power that we're going to have to increase power costs in order to decrease usage overall. So you're going to see this increase over and over and over and over again. We've already started seeing it, right? Just earlier this year, we saw an increase in costs overall. Google announced that for its Gemini, it's going to start doing world quotas. After a certain quota is met, then it's going to throttle down the usage, right? So what we're going to see for people who are built on full generative AI, they're going to crash. And they're going to crash because they're not going to be able to afford to pay for the processing and charge you enough money for you to pay them. You're finally going to say, I have to buy groceries for my family. I can't pay you this anymore, right? And so then you're going to cut off your subscription with them, whatever it may be. And then they're going to end up crashing because they're going to price themselves out of the market. Whereas Allcanza is not built that way. It was purposefully not built that way. We foresaw what would happen eventually with my tech people. And it was like, this is going to happen. We have to work on mitigating costs, not only for our own, bottom line and our own profits, but also for sustainability. So we've been able to decrease cost for our AI by up to 90%.
Oh, huge.
Yep. Huge.
That's huge. All right. So, taking the cue further from here. So just to follow up on that, we are told that token costs are decreasing, as you said that. So now, how do you square that with your prediction of an inevitable price increase? Is there a difference? I mean, like a hidden cost that tech gurus and M&A experts should be looking for?
Well, what they should be
or
looking
whether
at is the amount of usage, right? So anytime let's say my system ran on 100% AI. Then every time you would answer a question or it would fill a form or it would translate a document or anything, it would be pulling out of the system, right? And it would be using the whole database. So let's talk about how OpenAI works. When you ask a question from OpenAI, ChatGPT, what it does is it goes searches its entire database to find your answer that is most relevant, right? And then it does a compilation. So now we have things like Anthropic, where you have a project leader and then specialists in certain areas, and they get together and they basically discuss amongst themselves, the AI does, and then they provide you a response. This is the reason you can ask ChatGPT in 3 different sessions. You could ask it the same exact question and it'll give you 3 different answers because it's looking in its entire database for relevant pieces of information, right? That costs money because the database is huge. So if you have a system that is built on, let's say my system has 13,000 objects. If it's looking at every object every time you ask a question to get you an answer, it's going to be searching the instances, 13,000 instances every time, which costs money. It takes time. Time costs tokens, right? Time costs power. Time costs energy. Time is a cost. So by reducing that, the way we were able to reduce that in our system is we created topics. So ours is topic-based. So it's only looking at the header of a topic related to the question that you asked and only searches the actual database under that topic if that header of that topic is relevant to the question you asked. That's how we were able, by making it topic-based, we were able to reduce the cost by up to 90%. So now we get faster responses, more accurate responses, and ours is built from my brain, which means that it's consolidated. It is 100% confidential, which means all the information is siloed directly to your law firm, to your consumer, whatever it may be. It's siloed. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't train the system. It stays with you. But it also is only based on immigration. So if you give it an acronym that is used in immigration, it's not going to be looking at, well, what does that acronym mean in space, right? It has no idea about space. It doesn't care about space. It only cares about immigration. And if it can't respond to you, it doesn't hallucinate. It says, I'm sorry, I can't respond to that. Can you make your question more clear? Or here are some suitable questions that may help you understand, help you ask me and prompt me correctly in order to get a response. So it's very narrowly focused, which then also helps us to decrease costs. But with the AIs being built like they are, the saturation of the market, the cost of usage, and the loss of subsidies, that's what's going to kill a lot of companies.
I got your point. Just to understand a bit more better about your Neo. So you said that, it's completely based on immigration. From a layman's thought process, from layman's point of view, could there be anything that this software might have missed or your AI might have missed? Or is there any more scope of learning for the AI?
So the AI is always learning through me. So I'm constantly updating. So it's my brain. Basically what I did was I took years and downloaded my brain into the system. And then I supplemented it with the actual law, right? Like the what's called the INA in the U.S. Immigration Nationality Act. I supplemented it with that. I supplemented it with the FAM, which is the Field Adjudicators Manual, which is the exact manual that adjudicators, people that make decisions in the field for immigration, that's the manual they use in order to determine what their decision can be. And I added all the footnotes and everything from the law, which are like case law. So when a judge has made a decision that helps interpret a piece of law, that's already in there. So is there stuff that could be wrong? Sure. I mean, there's nothing that's perfect, right? I haven't found one yet, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And the constant training is done for me directly. That's one of the things that I actually do personally is I do the training because I'm the expert in the area of law. So I actually go in and determine when there's updated form systems, when there's updated instructions, when there's new BIA decisions, the Bureau of Immigration, the Board of Immigration Appeals, when there's new decisions like that, we make sure it's updated. We make sure that new information is put in. Like for instance, when the H-1B, the $100,000 H-1B cost came out, I had to go into USCIS, pull down all their notices, pull down all their instructions and all their FAQs, put it into the system so that now when a person asks about that, it's going to have the most up-to-date information available from the government agency. So it is very robust. Could it have errors? Sure, right? We have a disclaimer there that says it's not 100% accurate, so you want to make sure that you look this up or talk to a lawyer. But so far, I haven't found one instance, and I've asked it super complicated questions about immigration and asked it for an opinion. What should I do this or should I do this? Because this is my factual situation. Paragraphs of information, and it's able to give me a legal breakdown and an option breakdown of this is why you should choose. We would say this option is probably your best because of these reasons, although you could choose this option, and here are some pros and cons as well.
All right, Michael. Well, thank you for bringing this forth. That was a very good knowledge for viewers to know about the AI option. Now, so now this brings me to my next question that's coming to my mind. So if pure AI is a house of cards, what's the alternative? We call Leo a hybrid framework. How is it architecturally different? And how does that design create long-term price stability and resilience for your partners? The law firms, the corporates, so who actually can't afford, unpredictable price hike in few years. So how do you tackle all these things?
Yeah, so it actually goes back to one of my earlier statements about it being a vector database. So a lot of AI is based on that as well, right? The systems that it's built on: object, correlation, relevance, weight, whether, where a dog is a 0, right? And then a German Shepherd is a 0, 1, and then a long-haired German Shepherd is a 0, 1, 0, right? So that's how they kind of look at it. That's how AI pulls together correlative information that's relevant, right? Our system, the way it was built, we very luckily built our system in a way that automatically worked with AI as AI was introduced. So we were able to layer our AI, integrate rather, our AI in. So most of the system is built off logic systems. So it's if-then statements. If this, then this. If you need this type of product, this is the process you need. If you answer yes to, my mailing address and my physical address are different, then you need to add in a physical address, that kind of thing, right? Well, what it was able to integrate the AI. So the AI is truly an assistant. It doesn't operate the whole system, which for me is the key differentiator. AI does not run our whole system. AI is an assistant in the system, which allows the person to be guided through, to be helped, to be assisted, as it's stated, without there being this exorbitant cost that's reflected if you had AI doing everything. So it allows for there to be this increased productivity, increased efficiencies, decreased cost, while also maintaining the longevity of the productivity and the price analysis that we have, like not seeing the increased cost overall. So for instance, a process in our system, I'm actually not going to give you the exact price, but it is very low. The data cost for us is so low that what we charge, we're at like a 95% margin, gross margin, for data cost versus usage, right? So it allows us to offer good prices that don't have to increase because it'll just eat up a little bit of our gross margins.
Okay, fair enough. Now, for our viewers, ladies and gentlemen, today, that brings me to the end of the show. But, just before I conclude this, I would like to thank Michael for, taking his time out. Michael, a pastor, a person from law, a tech expert, a lawyer himself. Michael, thank you for taking out time. It was, what you shared with us, it was incredibly sharp analysis. You have clearly identified a fundamental flaw in the current AI gold rush. One that I know resonates with other listeners, or you can say our listeners. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, people who are from M&A, they are expert in their field, evaluating tech stacks, to compliance officers managing cross-border talent. You haven't just built a tool, for one market. You have designed a sustainable infrastructure for all the consumers, law firms, and enterprise HR. Your core warning is powerful. A price shock is coming for platforms built on 100% generative AI when investors subsidize, or run dry. Your hybrid infrastructure first approach with Leo is a masterclass, in building for long-term resilience and price stability. not just for today's hype. What you have built is incredible. I'm sure once people will start using it, they'll actually thank you, for simplifying the entire procedure for them. It was great, your brainchild, though I haven't used it personally, but the way it has been explained, I feel your brainchild will be like a revolution for everyone. So viewers out there who are looking forward for immigration, I would suggest and advise you to go ahead and use Michael's software, very friendly name, Leo. Michael, could you please, what does Leo stands for? I mean, I forgot that again.
So legal stands for legal efficiency operator, but it is the lion, right? So it's the lion that's
Right.
helping you be able to forge your path and be able to move forward. So actually, Leo's icon is a lion. So it's a lion that looks like a computer chip. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. Lovely. Wonderful, Michael. Thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, viewers. Bye for now. Ciao.